This is the only time I will ever bring up Jeffrey Epstein on this channel. And it's not really for anyone on here. I don't care what anyone thinks. This is more for when said events happen and people are like, who could have saw this coming? I'll just be like, check this video. Hey, that was made by you. Yep. Yeah. So as it stands, I'm writing a book called The Aldebaran Cantos. Think of it as the Volkish, non-Abrahamic Old Testament, right? Combining multiple traditions from Thulian to Neo-Templar to Ariosophy, Theosophy, Vedism, solar practice, all sorts of things, esoteric Austrian painter-isms, and all these other things, Hollow Earth, aliens, Yaldabaoth, and the Archons, and Jesus not really being Jewish, and yeah, just like all, Yggdrasil, the Nine Realms. Oh, just an explanation of everything. And when I publish it, I'm not even going to hide the fact that I wrote it because it's, because it doesn't matter. I plan on building a Hyperborean temple, a place for people of my schizophrenic tradition to worship. And yeah, that's been my path for almost 10 years now. Yeah, but here's the thing, though. Ripping a few pages out of the Cantos to make sense of modern events right now because people don't seem to get it. Every time they talk about the Epstein files, they talk about how basically every modern weird cringe event that happens is a distraction from the fact that they haven't released the Epstein files. Yeah, no. In fact, I'll say that the Epstein files themselves is a distraction. Now, as much as I'd love it to be true that, Donald Trump sucked Bill Clinton's dick, I would love that to be true, given that he deported an innocent German veteran back to Germany for trial after more than a lifetime's worth of living in peace. Yeah, or seeing Trump wearing a yarmulke and French kissing the wall in Jerusalem. Yeah, maybe that would be nice if we found out that Donald Trump was swallowing the gravy. I mean, yeah, no, that would be absolutely wonderful. But the thing is, so this is funny. I remember the day Jeffrey Epstein died, right? This is something that isn't talked about in the occult community because I don't think any credible occultist, whether they're personally a Democrat or a Republican or a Libertarian or what I am, no one wants to address this as it draws the wrong eyes. But I don't care. The day he died, I was so excited. I was like, wow, I want to know what afterlife he is suffering in, right? Because even though I don't know, I don't really believe in karma or dharma. But man, I'm sure there are plenty of ancestral dead that have some that want to throw hands with him, and I'm sure there's a few deities that couldn't protect their followers because of him. And yeah, I'm just thinking, maybe he's in hell or Tartarus or Sheol. Sheol would be appropriate. I just wanted to know where Jeffrey Epstein was after he died. And I did a ritual with the god Anubis, and it was an evocation, and Anubis stood before me and said, he's not accounted for amongst the dead. And I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? He killed himself. And Anubis said, no, he didn't. He's still alive, and he's enjoying his time in Israel. And I'm like, bullshit. So I do a ritual to Thanatos. I get the same confirmation. He's not dead. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And then I talked to Hades, and same fucking thing. And then I talked to La Santa Morte because, of course, I was trying to make sense of this. And she's like, he's not amongst the ranks of the dead. He is alive, unfortunately. And I'm like, hold on the fucking minute. hold on. And at that time, like a few days after, there were two occultists that posted videos on him not being in the afterlife. And I think those videos were taken down long ago. But yeah, it was an interesting thing. And I contacted multiple psychic mediums that I trusted. And just basically, I asked them without revealing any of my bias. I just said, hey, where is Jeffrey Epstein? And they said, I'll ask the ancestors. I'll do a little bit of divination. Of course, I had to pay some of them. Or just casually requesting something like that, give me money, but which is reasonable, completely reasonable. And yeah, let me contact the ancestors, do divination, and talk to my gods. And each and every one of these psychic mediums said to me, "Oh, yeah, he not only did he not kill himself, he's actually not dead." And I was like, "Huh." And I sat with that for years. I know Jeffrey Epstein is still alive. He is probably somewhere in the Middle East, somewhere in Israel, or maybe in the Bahamas. I don't know. I don't care. But yeah, no. And yes, he did a lot of evil stuff. I will say, this is another thing. I am of the personal belief he is an avatar of Enki. That was according to a channeling session I had. And then I found out afterwards that he had a little, and there's conjecture over this, but I believe he has a worship space on Little St. James Island that has some correspondence with Enki, which just blew my mind away. But yeah, no, Enki is evil, and I hate my relationship to him, or my relation to Enki, which I'll shamefully write in the Aldebaran Cantos. But I've known Enki. I've met Enki before he was a god, and yeah, don't put it past him. I wasn't there, but one of my brothers was there when the Welsh king, King Arthur, was tricked into creating Mordred by a wizard, a druid named Merlin, who at the time was possessed by the undead spirit of Enki, just as Enki possessed Jeffrey Epstein, just as Enki possessed Winston Churchill, and it just keeps going. Like, this is a spirit that has wanted to fuck with humanity and control humanity for millions of years. And you might be thinking, well, humanity hasn't been around for millions of years. Well, yeah, read Bhagavad Gita. But yeah, no. It's interesting because she was just another pawn, Like, the thing no one talks about, or no one acknowledges, is that Enki is Randall Flagg. He's the man in black, right? And we got to think about who's the Crimson King here, right? Is literally Yaldabaoth. I'm just going to flat out say it. It's Yaldabaoth. I don't care how any of this sounds, right? But yeah, no. The Cantos, the Hyperborean faith. It's funny. One day when I build the temple, I'll be training female occultists in my tradition and having them bring forth what magics they know, and have them be promoted as high priests of the temple, while I'll personally lead the temple guard, which we'll just call the Templars. And yeah, I'm basically training my replacements. And people are, I've told this too. They were like, "What? Why would you build up first of all, your own cult just to have it led by women?" And I said, well, here's the thing: women are spiritual leaders. I don't trust a woman in a military or a police uniform. Last time I had to witness a crime, and a policewoman was trying to ask me what was going on. I told her I don't recognize a woman in uniform because it's the job of men for thousands of years to fight to protect our wives and daughters and sisters, and to see a woman in a position, in an occupation in which you are to be sacrificed on the altar of your society for the longevity of the collective, is gravely fucking insulting to me. And I don't want to. It's bad enough that I have to acknowledge and legally, by force, engage and interact with a police force that basically is sacrificing our wives, mothers, you know, sisters, wait, what? No, wait, wives, mothers, sisters, daughters, and it just sacrificing them. You know, it's just a ritual blood sacrifice. Is it? Have you seen what happens when like a 7 foot tall, you know, drug dealer like grabs a policewoman by the throat? Like there's, you know, the what happens to female soldiers that get caught and are captive in the Middle East. We know what happens to them. I don't even need to say it on this channel. The point is, I'll never trust a woman with an axe, and I'll never trust a man wearing religious garb, religious robes. I'm the kind of person that's like, hey, I'm Genghis Khan, and I'm going to absolutely decimate and break this innocent population and force them to convert to my way of life. But before I do that, I'm going to ask the Tingri female shaman to consult the bones to know how I'll have victory. You know, there's a reason why even during the witch burnings, kings would always keep some type of court sorceress in the background, a sanctioned psyker, so to speak. And yeah, because here's the thing, like during World War II, you know, and this actually will go full back around to the Aldebarans, but during World War II, Gerald Gardner, you know, I believe it was Gerald Gardner who was involved with this, you know, men, whether they're cringe Wiccan or super advanced left-hand path, we cannot do the fun stuff like to the same extent women can. There's so many magical things I wish I could do, but alas, I have a penis. So, yeah, no, just thinking about it like this, Gerald Gardner couldn't just snap his fingers and blow up German aircraft. No, he'd have to get into a plane because we're creatures of the material world, so to speak. Now, however, Operation Cone of Power, a bunch of female witches, or that's kind of redundant. Female witches, a bunch of witches gathered around and did a ritual where I believe one woman died of exhaust, and it was to alter the weather patterns. And powered by this human sacrifice and through women, lightning bolts were just strategically destroying German aircraft out of the air, right? You know, people think, like, how do I put this? The ways in which I could, like, why I believe in honoring my, like, women is, first of all, just because I'm not a fucking cretin. But I gotta say, if, Kitty, stop. I'm just saying, I couldn't think of, like, okay, my fiance, this is a terrible thing to say. I could think of, like, if I were a terrible person, yes, I could really physically damage her. But I want to educate her on the occult and train her, because when she knows what I know, she'll be capable of much more than me. So let's just say I wouldn't lay a finger on her under the hypothetical that she is initiated and spiritually awakened, because the things your spouse can do to you... hold on. Yes. Because the things your woman can do to you, like the spiritual backhand, is so much worse than the physical backhand. And here's the thing. It's harder for evil forces, like Yaldabaoth, it's hard for things that are anti-cosmic to corrupt spiritual institutions if those spiritual institutions are led by women. Just as how I don't trust women in a sense of justice, right? If I'm just going to be honest here, if I'm being held trial and they're like, did you kill this person? And I find out that like more than half of the jurors are women, and I'm like, okay, then this no longer becomes about justice. This becomes about me trying to appeal to empathy. So I'll just confess and say, yep, I killed him. And it's like, why? Why would you do that? It's like, because here's the thing, men are more concerned with justice. I don't trust women in the courts. Because the thing is, and this is a compliment to them, actually, it goes weird. It goes hard, in my opinion. But men, because how we deal with our problems is we fight, we kill, we die, we conquer, which, you know, has negative effects. But, yeah. Like, that could have negative effects. But the thing is, like, more men tend to be more honest. because we don't need to lie. We can literally move mountains with our fist. So, and it becomes biologically ingrained inside of us not to lie and to just choose violence instead, which is why dueling is better than civil court, in my opinion, because it's usually always honest. But yeah, whereas, women, sexual dimorphism, a lot of the times, horrible, evil, fucked up, twisted men will do absolutely egregious, fucked up things to these women, right? But also, so they're only like if they're in an abusive relationship, a lot of the times it's the way they defend themselves is through a collective network. That's what sewing circles are for. They will, how do I put this? They'll strategically lie, often to do the right thing. I believe women are reasonable, not logical, but reason is reliant on empathy, whereas I believe men are logical, which is reliant on very low empathy. And in my opinion, justice should not come down to what's reasonable. It should come down to what is cold, blind, and logical. And empathy gets in the way of justice and often puts people in harm's way. So it's actually a compliment, because like when people are like, oh, these women that are lying and, just stabbing me in the back, it's like, well, it's because the only way they have to defend themselves in this cruel world is to lie. And I think men and women, because we're humans, we want to do the right thing. And I think a lot of the times women try to do the right thing through lying, and men try to do the right thing through violence. And, I think socially, violence is considered just as taboo as lying, so if not more. So I'm saying violence and lying is a good thing, but in different ways. So it's not like, oh, he's saying women are bad because they lie. No. So it's like all these guys that are like, why can't she just have a straight conversation with me? It's like, because you don't have to suffer the consequences of what happens if you're on the receiving end of a barrel in a straightforward conversation, right? We're both holding barrels, right? So that's a key thing to make. It's just, I find that women are not as objective. And like my fiance, she lies to me all the time. I always catch her in the act because I'm cold. I can see through it. And then I always use that as a moment for us to grow together. It's also part of the shit test, mind you. But, justice requires not just, harming. It also requires restraint and stoicism. And whenever she lies to me, I'm not angry. And she always thinks I'm going to be angry with her. And I'm like, no, you're lying for this to me, because you're thinking it's going to help you. This is the same reason why I would beat the shit out of someone with a fucking mallet, right? So, like, we work together. She's come to accept my violence. I've come to accept her lying. This is how men and women work together, mind you. But yeah, no, also it's a smart thing for women, because I'm impressed, because if you're not as strong, you have to make up for it in other ways. That, to me, that's a warrior's mentality. That's how women can rule kingdoms. They whisper into the ears of their men. The point is, though, I think it's also, they would have less reason to lie if the structure of society was theologically, not militarily, but theologically centered around matriarchy. Because when there are forces that want to hunt and kill humanity, spiritually, women's sense of justice, spiritually, is better than men. Men will get into rituals and for money, vanity, like me, and they'll curse people for the wrong reasons. And like when cursing someone, ironically enough, having a high level of empathy really helps, right? Because when it comes to the spiritual, the conceptual, you need to be kind of reasonable about it. And, even baneful magic, death magic, infertility, that's feminine by nature. So I have to take on, like, when people constantly say to me, oh, Alex, you seem more empathetic and more in touch with your emotions. And it's like, yeah, that's because in order to make money to spiritually kill people, I have to be feminine. I have to think like a woman if I want to be good with the occult. The same reason Odin dressed in women's clothing to learn cedar, right? But my point is, when it comes to spiritual justice, right? Like cursing the rapist, cursing the person that killed your son or daughter, or whatever it is. Like, women can do things that the justice system cannot, and I personally believe that, the God of Abraham, the one in which the children were sacrificed to. Moloch did nothing wrong. Moloch did nothing wrong. There was no archaeological evidence, and the only surviving accounts, or the only accounts of the time for children being sacrificed to Moloch were from the accounts of people that had been kicked out of over 100 nations, and each and every one of those nations accused them of child sacrifice. So do with that what you will. But yeah, no. Yeah, no, they make their problems everyone else's problems. But yeah, and who's they? Not going to say. But yeah, so what I find interesting, though, is if you want something that hates humanity to take power, what you're going to do is you're going to put women in the police and you're going to put men in the clergy. It started off by making our spirituality very patriarchal, and over time, in terms of material, physical culture, emasculating men, basically making it so there's no working man's pride. There's no actual male sense of well-being and masculinity. That's frowned upon. It's like, oh, you're being violent, and that's not good. That contributes towards the patriarchy. And then, like, some fucking rapist just goes and rapes the woman, and then the guy who's strong enough to go through a Herculean labor is like, hey, can I rescue you? No, that's just as bad as what he's doing to me. Okay. So it's like, I don't care anymore. I've learned to look past that. But there are women that have chastised me for wanting to harm rapists. And I'm like, how can you accuse this of being our fault when the men that want to use violence to protect you, you are telling them that they are just as bad as the rapist, and to basically start hugging out their problems. So they don't go to the gym, they don't fight, and they think, well, you can do anything I can do. Well, yeah, and now they're getting raped beside you, except they have the pussy. But yeah, no, I'm just like, it's this psyop where it's to make every aspect of physical society a matriarchy, and to make all of our mainstream spiritual institutions a patriarchy, right? And then we wonder how things that are as fucked up as they are allowed to happen, And when you disenfranchise women out of the one thing that they are better at than men, just like a whole plethora that matches everything that a male warrior can do and has worser devastating effects, if they burned the witches not because they were afraid of their faith. They burned them because the witches could do exactly and everything that they were accused of, right? Now you have a national security risk because, sure, you have men in the military, men in the church, but that's an entire side of civilization in which all of its spiritual defense, all of the ways in which bad things can affect everyone. I'm thinking missing 411s and people disappearing. If you remove the people that can protect us in the spiritual matters, and we are spiritually vulnerable, and that's half of all our nations, all our countries, all our governments, and everything is spiritually vulnerable, right? Then you wonder how the physical side can follow suit sooner and quicker, right? But yeah, no, I'm thinking Operation Cone of Power, these women that were literally able to destroy German aircraft. Or what about the Vril Society? They were able to contact our human dead, talk to our ancestors from Aldebaran, and then those ancestors from Aldebaran were able to talk to the living Aldebarans. As in, an entire civilization of non-humans that, granted accidentally, created us, and found, the Hyperborean colony of Earth is still alive. Oh, and the Germans, a group of human creatures that we just found out about, they created a society that's basically the same exact ideology and format as us. Yeah, let's give these people like flying saucers and UFOs and stuff like that, because they are basically space white nationalist pantheist that worship the monad and are against these forces of duality. And I'm not speaking metaphorically here. I believe they're a literal flesh and blood race. And how do I put this? There is no faster than light technology. I'm just going to say it for those that are like, oh, Star Trek. And I'm like, no, let's not go there. That's never going to be a thing. The Aldebarans themselves, though, use space folding technology. So for them, it would be a few decades. For us, it would be more than 100 years. They promised Adolf Hitler reinforcements because, how do I put this? When talking to an Aldebaran spirit, they told me that the nature of something that is noble, I can't say the A word on this channel, the nature of something that is noble is unity. It is, in metaphor, fusion, right? And the thing that is the antithesis to everything that we stand for and everything that represents cosmic rot, materialism, pestilence, and the root of all evil. An evil so evil that only it could create something like Jeffrey Epstein, because we got to think about who Jeffrey Epstein is, or rather what he is. I'm not referring to pedophilia. I'm referring to something else. But anyways, that evil could be best represented through fission, through splitting the atom, through striking in half existence, through damaging the world tree, right? And we got to think, well, what group of people did the person that created the atom bomb belong to? So you could probably see where I'm going with this. So their whole goal was to give the Germans technology and to send reinforcements. Well, it was too late. Now, according to, a certain Mr. Something Something Productions in a video he did with a psychic medium, they would apparently show up around the year 2016, a little late. But here's the funny thing. During 2016, I had this weird experience where I was channeling, and I saw a gigantic base built on the dark side of the moon. And then I saw nukes going off, and the base itself did not look human. It looked very ancient, right? And, I saw the people that were bombing it was NATO, which weirded me out. I was like, why is NATO nuking the dark side of the moon? And who built this thing, right? And again, as I always do, I contact women, female psychic mediums, and I ask them, so what's going on the dark side of the moon? And they're like, wait, why are nukes going off? And I seized up. I was like, yeah, no, I was like, what the fuck? And I contacted multiple people, and you can channel this for yourself. This is something worth channeling because it's a fucking sight. It's a horrible sight. And then I saw these Aldebarans approach our world governments, acknowledging that the Germans were destroyed. No, the Germans weren't destroyed. They're still around. Yeah, okay. Alrighty. Yeah, they weren't destroyed. Yep. Anyways, so, these Aldebarans talk to our governments, and they're basically like, we can give you the cure to cancer. We can give you immortality. We can give you fusion technology. We can give you et cetera, floating cars, everything, which we technically already have, but we'll get into that. We can give you this and that and, terraform your planet so global warming is no longer a threat. We can remove microplastics from the environment. We can bring back extinct species. The results of this interaction was us basically saying no and attacking them. Whereas a competitor of the Aldebarans basically approached our governments and said, hey, we can give you weapons of mass destruction to make you equal to our enemies. And all we want is you to get random, homeless people. You have millions of children. If you take a few thousand, few hundred of them, no one's going to notice. Specifically the little girls. And we'll just take random ass people and no questions asked. And we'll give you all this advanced weaponry for war. And also, I thought I'd throw this right in the middle of the video because I've been doing a lot of rituals lately of meditation and channeling and remote viewing and things like that. And for some reason, I saw FEMA. Like the government agency, I saw like FEMA vans pulling up next to homeless people in Austin, Texas specifically, which I forgot about that place. because it's a place I don't care about. I'm never going to visit. But I saw a bunch of like FEMA agents getting like orders from top brass to basically collect and round up homeless people. And then I, in this channeling, saw gigantic underground concentration camps full of like naked homeless people, um, you know, covered in like brands and stuff like that. And then, being molested and raped and, processed and psychologically tortured and injected with weird stuff. And then being given collars and then being led onto a Regulan spaceship to be sent to the, solar system of Regulus, the star system of Regulus. And I'm just seeing thousands of people being marched on the ship where they are molested further by these creatures and eaten. And it's weird. I'm also seeing like these images of United Nations getting these children from third world countries and loading them on the ship. And I'm seeing these creatures from Regulus offering money in exchange for every certain amount of people being, boarded on the craft or whatever, from like weapons and experimental medicines and all sorts of stuff. And it's really tripping me out. I'm not gonna lie, including rare resources that can only be found in outer space, like iridium, just being lowered off. So I thought I'd throw that in the video because, I don't know if there's any like disappearances in Austin, Texas. I'm too lazy to look that up. But it was just something I channeled, so I thought I'd bring it up just in case it ever came up. We accepted that offer. So, because one day that will be revealed and everyone's going to go, what the fuck? What? And yeah, no, we accepted that deal. Anyways, so here's the thing. Before 2016, it is my personal opinion that all flying saucers we saw, all anti-gravitational aircraft, was, regardless of which part of the world it was, confiscated German technology from, the Vril Society, or rather, well, from the German engineers, but rather, given by the Vril Society, and, brought to places like Area 51. I personally am of the opinion that there has been really no alien contact from the end of World War II to 2016. I think it's all literally just our governments with flying saucers. Reverse engineered German technology that was given to them by our Aldebaran ancestors, which I refuse to call Aldebarans aliens. I'll never do that if I ever bring them up on this channel. I don't call them aliens. That's bullshit to me. I refuse. Absolutely refuse. They are our forerunners, and they do not deserve to be called Xenos, but we'll not go there. Anyways, so the way I see it in all of this chaos is, again, you put women in power and spiritually, and they destroy German aircraft, and then they give Germans UFOs. I mean, this is what they're afraid of. People that worship Yaldabaoth, they're afraid of what happens if women become priests, or rather priestesses. What happens when the old order takes out? Because then it's harder for capitalism to take over the roots of our material foundations if the height of our society, the very precipice, is spiritually from the top down ran by women. Because then everything, from the bottom up or whatever, is fixed. How do I put that? Or it becomes harder for the things from the bottom up to affect, right? So it's like, yeah, no. Like when I form the Hyperborean Temple, it's going to be women, right, that are in charge, and if we have our own church militant, it's going to most certainly be men. But yeah, no, I mean, I have a friend who's an Orthodox priest, he got me through a lot, gave me a lot of spiritual counsel, and if he ever sees this, he's going to be really beyond insulted and, just frustrated with me. But you know what? I will take, the Romani gypsy woman that squeezes the goat testicles spiritual advice over my Russian Orthodox priest friend because she actually knows what she's talking about. So, yeah, people are going to watch this video and be like, whose side is he on? He's going in like a million different directions. The answer is yes. I am on this side. Which side? I don't know. But anyway, so I have to get that out of the way. Oh, and I dropped my phone. But yeah, no. So here's the thing. This has become a thing that's becoming harder and harder for them to hide. Like, how many months ago did the U.S. and Canada chase an unidentified flying object that was supposedly Chinese in origin and strike it down in, what was it, the Yukon or British Columbia? I don't know. But anyways, the point is, we have had, after World War II, so many flying saucer events, and what is the government's calling them? Something else, UAVs or some, no, not UAVs, like they have their own acronym that's not UFO, but it's the same thing. And there's more people in the United States Navy speaking up about this, like high brass and soldiers that were sworn to confidentiality that are speaking up. There are people in the Air Force. There are 5-star generals that are leaking information because they're seeing what's going on. The thing is, right now, like, there's been a few times where the government confessed, yes, there is something and we don't know what it is. And people think, oh, this is going to be the prelude to Operation Bluebeam. Bullshit. Allegedly, Operation Bluebeam is this idea that, oh, well, when our world problems reach their height, we're just going to unite all of humanity under a new world order and use aliens as an excuse. Well, there are no aliens. I guess in that regard, that conspiracy theory is right. But there are ancestors, and our ancestors are here. And I think what's going on right now is all our world governments are basically fighting a war against the Aldebarans. It is my gnosis that the Aldebarans, they want to basically come here and conquer this planet, destroy capitalism, and change societies in a way that I can't speak about on YouTube, but it will definitely be very socialisty and nationalisty, and no genocide. No, like we're talking like, what you think, what I would want, but for literally every group of people. Yeah, that kind of world. I don't even agree with it. I would like this is a terrible conclusion you're coming to. Are you saying, I wish that? I'm not even going to hide that. I wish that, and I don't think they deserve anything else, but the Aldebarans will basically give everyone their own slice of cake, basically. But each person's slice of cake will literally be their own without guilt tripping, if that makes sense, without peer pressure from another person that already has their cake or has already eaten their cake. Well, that's where I'll leave that in that regard. But the thing is, the Aldebarans, they are basically trying to reestablish order. And how do I put it? We're not making it easier, right? I don't, we're not making it easy. And it is according to my gnosis that the reason why there's so much more cases of cancer, or recently there was a book that was just released where it was this idea for creating a new global diet of becoming emaciated. That I'll leave a link in the description for that, because that's a fucking crazy one. But yeah, how do I put this? There is a bunch of, like, here's the thing. The war in Ukraine, Russia and Ukraine, that's a distraction. It is my personal belief that Zelensky and Putin are both comrades. I believe they're using that war to make people forget about what's going on. Because if enough people catch on to what's going on, that can cause problems, Basically, our governments know the Aldebarans are going to win, and that, we've met our match. And basically, the way capitalism works is it's not... the definition of capitalism on Google is bullshit. Capitalist created that definition. The actual definition of capitalism, in my opinion, is when the society, its people, its race, its religion, every aspect of it, it's, culture, music, when everything exists for the sake of generating more capital. So when every one of those things that I mentioned is lowered in its quality and increased in its quantity, where there is nothing natural, nothing organic, and everything becomes just a statistic in a meaningless game of money and monopoly, right? People talk about the New World Order, the Illuminati, and ask, hey, Alex, what do you think they want? Money is what I think they want. I don't think they want to create the Antichrist or all of these other fantastical things. I believe this group that has dedicated themselves to pure human misery, I think the end of the day, the only thing they want is to keep Wall Street running. That literally, that's what I personally believe. I think there is no grand thing, and that might sound insulting. Like, there's no way they would dedicate themselves to this extent and fuck up society for thousands of years to the extent they have just to create more capital. And I'll say that means you have a soul. These people do not have a soul. You have a soul, so you think if I was going to be a supervillain, I'd do it for something meaningful. Well, these people don't have a soul, so they have no meaning. I'll just leave it at that in that regard. But yeah, they have absolutely no meaning, no purpose, and it's just about money, right? And the opposite, what is the opposite of capitalism by this made-up definition? The opposite of capitalism is when money exists for the sake of its society, its race, its culture, its religions, its music, its institutions, so on and so forth. And when money is used as a tool just to increase quality of human well-being and to be spent on driving humanity to the stars, to building imperiums, to building empires, to discovering the next frontier of science. That's what I think capitalism really is. And as a result, if the Aldebarans want to create a human society in which all of the earth exists, all we exist for is discovering that next breakthrough and elevating our civilizations to the next stage, and finding purpose and meaning and piety, then as a result they're thinking, well, that the most dangerous threat in that case isn't the Aldebarans, it's the possibility that the earth can exist without being exploited. So it is my personal opinion that all of this is a distraction. They're basically building up for a giant scorched earth operation. What's going to happen is eventually it'll be publicly revealed that there is an alien threat from Taurus, and we have actually been at war for a very long time. We're going to call all of our nations to unite, and we're going to try to bring a bunch of random-ass people into this fight because they think that this group of aliens wants to lead to human extinction, kind of like the plot of Ender's Game, when they're actually trying to save us. And what's going to happen is they're going to, after all this distraction, what they've actually built, I can't say that on YouTube because I don't want to get murked, but and I don't have a full clue of it, but I have an idea of it. They're going to do something that's worse than nukes. They're going to do something that will sanitize the entire planet of every form of flora and fauna. They're going to do something that will basically eliminate every trace of human DNA. They're going to sanitize the planet, leave it so irreversibly polluted. They're going to basically level the oceans with acid, and they're going to make it so like every volcano activates. They're going to do something repugnant. And you might be thinking, Alex, why aren't you freaking out, saying all this? If you truly believe this, why doesn't this bother you? Because as a psychic vampire, I have witnessed so many incarnations, and I was there for the burning of Carthage. I was there for the sacking of Rome. I have witnessed so many things in all of my incarnations, and I gotta say, nothing is more haunting than what happened to Mars and old Hyperborea, what happened to Atlantis. I gotta say, I can't think of anything worse than that. So this is child's play. It's like, oh, okay. It's not like I haven't had this happen before, so whatever. Anyways, like, how am I supposed to react, I've already been through it. I've seen it. I know what's going to happen. But so it doesn't bother me because I can't change it and I've already experienced it. And when you experience it, it doesn't bother you knowing that you're going to experience it again. It's just, I accept it, you know? It's what we would call revelations or Ragnarok, right? This is the actual revelations, the actual Ragnarok. And the thing is, all of human life will be extinguished, which, my disappointment is that the British won't survive this. Yeah, no, the British won't. And it'd be awesome if it was everyone else except the British. That'd be great. If it's like, hey, the Aldebarans came here. Can we recolonize this planet? And everyone else is gone. Can we, when you terraform this back to glory, can we be, no, we're going to be fucking dead. Now, within this belief, I personally believe that after the earth is destroyed and leveled, and our enemies have committed suicide with us, granted, and I guess this would include Epstein by this point. Like whatever. When the earth becomes habitable again, yes, I believe the earth is hollow. I don't care how that sounds. What's going to happen is the Germans of the Fourth Reich are going to march through this to the surface, and they're going to recolonize the earth. Yes, I do believe Hitler's still around. I believe he's like 134, 135 years old right now. Yeah, he's still alive. That's a long story. And again, the man isn't even that great to me. I'm more of a Mosley fan, but yeah, I mean, Miguel Serrano will have his moment of like, hell yeah, but this, I don't know. I'm not really big into the German ideology. It's like, I'm just wishing that the British colonized Hollow Earth first. That would be that leaves me a little sore because after they come here, the entire planet is going to be speaking German. Just as an FYI. So I'm saying these things that happen afterwards. We're talking about the prelude here, right? What I'm insinuating is that the Epstein files, all of that, and the fake death of Epstein, it's all a distraction from the fact that we are currently at war with a civilization that's been around for millions of years and has existed since before the dinosaurs, a species that is trying to save us, and we're all basically going to kill ourselves, right? And it's like, so why do you want to have kids, right? Why do you want to get married? Why do you want to, build a temple? Doesn't that all seem self-defeating? And it's like, yeah, especially because, I think it'll really get nasty during, I want to say, I'm trying to think, what year was it? 2039 or something? I don't remember. There's I can't even remember, maybe 2030, something, somewhere around that line, a few decades from now. It's like, so why do you want to have kids? And I'm like, well, that's a good point, because I think fear is for the weak, and my kids could be strong, and I think they're going to have a hell of a time, witnessing such a grand, civilization ending event. And who knows, like, I don't think it's entirely fixed in stone. They might be able to hop aboard a flying saucer. Sure, they'll suffer the worst form of PTSD imaginable. But the thing is, like, there are only 3 reasons why humans exist. It's to eat good food, it's to have kids, and it's to have community. If you're not doing any of those 3 things, your existence isn't worth anything, and you're not worth anything as a person. As long as you're doing one of those things, you got it, you got it locked in. But I'd like to ideally do all 3 of those things. And yeah, it's like, sure, my doomsday prophecy involves me dying, but that's tomorrow. I live today, and right now I have a pretty lady that I like, and a family I would like to build, a career I'd like to develop. I'd like to enjoy myself, as I always have. And, it's like, what am I going to do when the world ends? Absolutely nothing, but you know what I can do at the moment? I can enjoy myself. I can do what I can, the best I can, I'd like to think that, things could be changed if more people had that attitude. But the thing is, basically, whatever is revealed with the Epstein files, I don't give a shit about. I don't care. I really don't care. And, he's still alive, and he was a distraction. The entire thing was a distraction from what's really going on. So you can do with that with this what you will, but yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on the matter. Yeah.